the Fantasy Source Baseball Podcast. My name is David A. Arnott, sitting here with Brad Pinkerton, and today we are talking about that amazing phrase that every fantasy manager hears at some point. Hey, do you want to buy low?
Well, no one wants to buy low. No one's trying to give these guys away, but there's a certain guys that you might see on other opponents' rosters who are bringing their team down that you know they're just about to bounce back, and you want to get in while you can.
Well, I was saying that in the sense that I know, at least in leagues that I've played, I always get suspicious when somebody tells me that, for the exact same reason you just said, because, nobody really wants to buy low. What are you talking about here? But anyway, we have a list of players here that you think, yes, you should be thinking, I can buy low on this guy. And then you also have a list of guys who are struggling that you think, you know what? That's much more likely to be a real trend that's going to hang on throughout the rest of the year. It's not necessarily a buy low situation.
Yeah, now some of these guys I think we'll be able to buy low even though they are high-end guys. But because of that high investment, you're probably going to have to give up something in return. So you just want to make sure you're not giving up too much just for the hopes of these guys turning around and blowing up.
Yeah, I mean, these are veterans, established guys who are the young, hot players. I see Carlos Santana as a guy, Mike Stanton as a guy that you have listed there. Those two guys specifically, both young, both rookies last year, getting their first full seasons this year, struggling in the early going. What makes you think that they're good candidates to buy low right now?
Well, Carlos Santana, just because he is unproven, we only saw a little bit out of him before the season-ending injury last year. And I think a lot of people automatically relate him to Buster Posey. He's going to do what Buster Posey did. Well, so far this year he hasn't. Carlos Santana will, though. He eventually will. He's too good of a hitter to be struggling. He's only hitting 200 right now with a couple of home runs. He's going to be much better than that. He's got the plate discipline, he's got the patience, and he's got the power. He's going to eventually come around. So he's a guy I think you can take advantage of owners' fears a little bit. Maybe they think that they overpaid. You can sneak in and slip him off the roster or two.
Now, with Stanton, what's your reasoning behind that one?
Mike Stanton, you know what you're getting. You're going to get a mediocre average, and you're going to get a lot of power. So if you're comfortable with that, go try to steal him. He's only got 2 homers right now. Again, the owner might think he overpaid for him right now, that he got a little too excited with where he drafted Mike Stanton. Well, he got through an early season injury. He's just now getting comfortable after we saw a couple of home runs he cracked last week. Lasers, by the way, one mammoth shot.
I believe the one headline I saw was that he took the life out of a baseball.
He did. He ended the baseball.
Pour one out for that baseball.
But he's another guy, especially a young guy, that I would go after right now.
So now let's go to the other side of the coin. 2 similar players that we're looking at. You say don't buy low on these, even though if somebody tries to offer them to you and try to get a good price for them, you probably should stay away from them because this is more of a trend. And I'm thinking specifically of Adam Dunn and Pedro Alvarez. We've got Dunn and Stanton kind of parallel and Alvarez and Santana kind of parallel.
Well, let's look at Alvarez because he's in that group with those 2 youngsters that we just talked about. I'm very, very worried about Pedro Alvarez's plate discipline. He flat out strikes out too much. Now, he's going to get hot. He's going to go through stretches where he gives you bunches of home runs. But overall, his numbers are not going to be great. He's not going to pad his stats with a lot of RBIs. He doesn't get on base a lot, so the runs aren't going to be there. The few home runs he gives you are going to be great out of the third base spot. But that average, I don't know if it's worth it. So, honestly, he's a guy that I wouldn't be looking to give up a whole lot. Now, would I take him dirt cheap? Of course. I'll take that flyer. Right. But I'm not going to give up a solid commodity for Pedro Alvarez right now.
And you're not going to immediately try to plug him in and say, hey, he's going to produce eventually.
Right, exactly. You don't want to be in the same situation that other owner is in right now while his team is sinking.
Now, what is it about Dunn that you see that scares you away?
Well, Adam Dunn is a guy that we already know what he is. We know that he's not going to hit much above 250 if he even gets that high. A lot of home runs, a lot of power, kind of similar to Mike Stanton, but the fact that he hit so poorly in the second half last year, and that's carrying over to early this year, I was amazed at how overvalued Dunn was in drafts this year. So the problem is, well, I guess this isn't a problem because it'll help you not be able to get Dunn, but he was drafted 3rd round. You're going to have to give up a lot to get Dunn, even though he is struggling so much early this season, which is a good thing.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like Dunn has had something like 2, maybe 3 seasons off the top of my head where he's batted above 250 for the season. And so really what you're getting from him, you're getting 3 categories at most. You talked about home runs, RBIs, and runs. And batting average, he's going to be, you have to expect him to be a net negative no matter where he is, if he's in Chicago or if he's in Petco or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's just one of those things where this is kind of who he actually, it's more along the lines of who he actually is than the 280 hitter that he was in his very best seasons.
A very similar player is Dan Ugla. You're looking at tremendous power there, but his average was higher than normal last year, and I think a lot of people bought into that and thought that he could repeat. Well, he's not. He's hitting 183 with 5 homers. 5 homers are nice, but if he doesn't get that average up very high, he's not going to be worthy of that third-round pick. But he's a guy that I would stay away from also because his value has been set so high. You're going to have to give up too much to get him.
Well, if you already have him too, that's a name brand that you can actually leverage and get somebody else who might not have the same kind of name brand appeal of Dan Udla. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head at the same position at second base, but someone who might not have the same kind of name brand recognition but is incredibly awesome is Andrew McCutchen.
Mm-hmm. No, he's definitely a buy low guy. He's just starting out a little slowly, and people might be nervous that he plays for the Pirates and whatever. That didn't affect him the last couple of years. I would go get Andrew McCutchen. He's got 3 homers, 3 steals. That's kind of a preview of what he can do in those categories, and I think all of his other numbers, including or especially his average, those are going to start to rise. He's the real deal. Another multi-talented guy, power speed guy I would go get in the outfield, Shin-Soo Choo. He is unbelievably consistent in the last couple of years, so I think this slow start for him is just a fluke, and he's going to turn it around, and we should go get him before they start to turn around.
Interestingly, Choo is basically doing what we all expected Grady Sizemore to do. Have they ever done it in the same season? Like, is this kind of like a Jimmy T, Jamie Moyer situation where one guy transfers his power to the other?
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to transfer, but if it's good, I want him on my fantasy teams.
All right, let's wrap this up. Give me one more guy in the don't buy low category, a guy that is struggling right now, and you say, you know what, that's probably going to continue. I'm staying away.
Well, I think an obvious one on that list is Derek Jeter, so I'll just skip over him by saying that name. But Alex Rios is a guy that he kind of came out of nowhere last year. We'd seen him be good in the past, and we saw him be very good last year. But it seemed like all last year we were waiting for that fall. Well, now the fall is happening early this season. I would not try to jump on this ship because it might be sinking.
Okay, and then one more from the guys that you say, hey, even though they're struggling, you should absolutely hold on to these guys or try to take advantage of somebody who may be wavering in their faith.
Well, I'll give you a pair of top-end guys, and Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez in Boston. Yeah. Those guys are going to turn it around. Do not panic about that, make any low-end deals trying to sell low and get out of that. But Gonzalez is coming off shoulder surgery. He's getting stronger, and I think we've suffered through the worst part of his season so far, so the power is coming. Crawford, the same thing. He's just adjusting to being in Boston. That lineup actually is really just starting to gel and it's coming into its own. So once that happens, Crawford's going to put up some monster numbers. And so much of his value relies on speed. That doesn't slump. So as long as he can find a way to get on base, he's going to get owners through the tough times, and the power and the other numbers will come.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up with fewer than 10 home runs, and things like that. But he's going to hit his share of doubles and triples and then get those runs stored with that powerful offense. And you know what? The Red Sox haven't been shy to let Jacoby Ellsbury steal. They'll let him steal.
Exactly.
All right, Brad, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot.